Load regulation is one of the most important specifications to look at when choosing a DC power supply for various application use. Good regulation will help ensure that the power coming out from the power supply is steady and well regulated for sourcing power to sensitive devices. I will use a B&K Precision 9182 DC power supply and an 8500 DC electronic load and a 5492B 5.5 digital multimeter to set up for load regulation testing of the power supply. With the 9182 being a constant voltage, constant current power supply, I will show you how to measure load regulation in constant voltage operation. The measurement is done by measuring the change in output voltage from when there is no current load to the maximum rated current load. For the 9182, this change is from 0 amp to 20 amp. For setup, I have the 9182 connected to the 8500 from positive to positive, negative to negative terminal. Because the current will be as high as 20 amp, be sure to use wires with at least 14 AWG wire gauge. A regulated AC power supply will be used to power up the 9182, which will eliminate any load effects caused by fluctuations from the AC input. The 5492B multimeter will be probing the output terminal of the power supply to measure for the voltage change. Here is a diagram of my setup. With all the instruments powered on, I will configure the 9182 output settings by pressing V-set and enter 10 volts. Then press enter to set. Then press I-set, enter 20.1 amps and press enter. Current limit is set to 20.1 amps to prevent the supply from crossing over to constant current operation. Now on the multimeter, I will simply press DCV to select DC voltage measurement function. Without the load turned on, I will press the output button of the 9182 to turn on the power supply. Then read the voltage on the multimeter. This reading will be the no load voltage, or the voltage with zero current load. Keep the power supply output on. Now I will set up the 8500 as a constant current load with 20 amps. Press the I-set button and type 20 and press enter to save. The load should be configured to sync 20 amps. You can press I-set again to verify. Now as soon as I press the input on-off button on the 8500, it will draw 20 amps from the power supply. Observe the power supply to verify that 20 amp is coming out, and also do the same on the load's display. Now look carefully on the multimeter and record the voltage reading. Because 9182 is a linear power supply, the regulation is very tight, so jotting down a high-resolution reading on the DMM is important. After recording the reading, turn off the DC load input and turn off the power supply output. Now the load regulation can be calculated in a percentage by the following formula, where VO is the voltage with zero current load, and V is the voltage you just recorded with 20 amp load. A similar setup can also be used to measure load regulation for current, in which case the power supply will operate in constant current and the load in constant voltage mode.